Welcome back, everybody. I'm Abbye, and this is the Business from Scratch podcast. Today, I have one of my very favorite people. Lindsey Cheek was my first client with Salt and Charm. Her and her husband, Grayson, said yes to me when I called and said, "Can I come and chef for you?" And I am so grateful for them. And I have watched her grow her business over the years in a way that's pretty unconventional. She learned how to choose her clients wisely so that she could create a business that worked for her and her young family. And scaling down is the way she did it instead of scaling up. That was a way that she could create margin in her life and become more profitable. So stick around. There's so much to learn from Lindsey. You're listening to Business from Scratch, the podcast for people building businesses they love without losing themselves along the way. I'm your host, Abbye McGee. Let's get started. So I have so many questions I want to ask you, and they've been questions like business questions I've wanted to ask you for a while because we talk personal stuff all the time. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Lindsey Cheek is the founder, principal designer, owner of Gathered, which does amazing work. We're going to talk about it in pretty great detail. But Lindsey was my very first client.
It's my claim to fame.
Very first client back when I did not know what I was doing, and I was trying to make you think that I knew what I was doing.
You knew.
So
Yeah, we had a chef that had worked with our family for like a year, and she got a job in Atlanta and moved. And you called me and you said, "Hey, I know that she is leaving. Do you still want a service?" I was like, "Yes." And you were working. Managing
in a
grocery
bakery store.
Well, it was Earth Fare, but you were a man, and I was like, "Yes, when can you start?" And we loved your food so much more, even. And then because I have luxury clients, I would talk to them, and I would say, "Oh my gosh, you've got to, you have to work with Abbye. She's great." And I think you were still working full time at the grocery store or at Earth Fare. Let's not.
I mean, it was a grocery store. It was. So like that was my reality. I managed in a bakery in a grocery store and took a chance and called you. And it really was like almost immediate word of mouth, you telling all of your friends and clients. And I had a full schedule within a couple of months.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those clients are still your clients.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are good ones.
Those OG clients that have stuck with me all these years. And I tell people all the time that you and Grayson are why I have a business.
Oh.
And it's so true. It's so true. And I think about that too in my life. Like, how can I recognize somebody that is starting something new and give them an opportunity like you guys gave me, because it changed my life.
Yeah.
It did. I have observed you and your business even before I started chefing for you.
Yeah.
When you first were being published in magazines, and like I knew friends of friends who knew you, and I just knew about your work. And then I've watched you grow, and I watched you grow your business to a pretty large place. And then you scaled it down quickly.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing I want to talk to you about today is scaling down a business in order to be more profitable, be more successful, make room in your life for what you want your life to be.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me because typically we're just, you don't listen to business podcasts, but I do. And it's all about how to scale, how to grow, add to your team.
Yeah.
How do you make this thing huge? And that's not always the best version of your business.
Right.
So if you can take me back to like the early days of Gathered, what in those early days when you were building your business up to that, like almost like frenzied, like big staff, big retail spot, lots of clients, what was important for you then in your life and the way you approach business to where you wanted to scale it like that? And before we get to the scaling down.
Yeah. So we really, like when I started Gathered, we had instant success, which that came from having my personal house published, and people calling from all over the country. My first house was published in HGTV magazine. A client from California called. They said, "We have $1 million. We live in Hong Kong. Can you do our house?" And I was like, "Sure." I had no idea what I was doing though. And then from there, we had like great things to feature. This was, I mean, maybe Instagram was happening then, but it wasn't. It was like so
It
long
was so
ago.
new.
It was
Yeah.
like 2011, 2012. So then I had, Morgan, who is still with me. She's been with me for that many years, basically. And we were just trying to figure it out on our own. And then, the clients just kept coming and coming and coming. And I was like, let's open up a store, because I could not take all of the people that were calling, but they wanted specific things that we were featuring. It was like a pillow or a lamp. And I thought, well, there's not a lot of retail places here in Wilmington. Let's do that. A few years later, I was like, so we opened a store. And oddly enough, it's like we sold more children's items and jewelry than anything else. And I was like, why are people not buying this $1,000 lamp? So that was the first store. It was really, we were open Monday through Saturday. That was really tricky because I had young kids at the time that had ball games and dance. My husband also owns his own business, and he's a lawyer. So his emergency meetings always trump mine, because he would, he's got people going to jail. So we had to figure out, okay, the store really isn't working, because I want to be involved in the store, but our projects are what's really making us money. So we moved to a different store, hired more designers, scaled down the store to really just have items that I knew that I could place in projects. So it was a much smaller retail space. We were just open Monday through Friday. And it's kind of like when you're in it, you don't know better. It took, we just were growing and growing and growing. And the more that we grew, the less I was able to design.
Right.
And then I was like, why am I so upset or why am I like resenting work so much? And it wasn't because I didn't love what I was doing. It's that I didn't love managing people.
Right. Do you feel like you were growing in response to not necessarily what you wanted, what you were envisioning for your business, but because it's just whatever people asked for, you were giving them?
Yes. Yeah. Because we've had so many iterations of Gathered. We've had retail. We did e-design for like 1 second that, because people were asking. We did mini design. But our root system, our bread and butter, is really full houses or full renovations, full construction. My background's in architecture. I love the construction phase. I thrive in that area. I like working with contractors and all the trades. That's
God bless you.
all the good ones. But that's really what I thrive. That's where I thrive. That's what we've been so successful in doing. But we were really, it was never my goal to grow so big. It was just responding to what people were asking for.
Right.
And then it took kind of me stepping back, and, God bless Morgan, we would have these like heart-to-heart walks around the loop. And she was like, what do you want to do? Because my strength is not managing people. And the larger we grew, I was managing not only staff, but, the more clients you have, the more contractors you have, the more trades you have, the more problems you have.
Right.
And I can do that if I have full control. And I'm happy to do that if it's just me and Morgan on a project. But once there were projects that I didn't have my hands on as much, it just became so overwhelming. And mistakes were happening that were very expensive mistakes.
Right. Because you couldn't be in 50 places at one time and see about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And you just kept iterating your business to the place where I felt like it was all in it. I know it wasn't all of a sudden. I know it was a lot of those walks around the loop and decision making and evaluating. So when you started noticing that you had to make a change and scale back, was it a combination of trying to become more profitable, or your like personal peace and the vision you had for your life? Was it all of that kind of got you to that place?
It was because I got pregnant.
That'll do it.
Well, that was such a blessing. We were not trying to have
Right.
another child.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned to Morgan, like, I really want to scale down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I wanted to be more intentional with projects. I wanted to be more present at home. But I think that, like, at the velocity that we did it, it was because I got pregnant.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And we have a 10-year age gap between my oldest and my youngest. So we had a lot of life changes. We moved houses.
Mm-hmm.
We closed the store. We went from a staff of 7 to staff of 2 very quickly. Um, and I think that it was all very intentional, but it was also seeing that just because you have more projects does not mean that you're more profitable,
Right.
because the overhead is so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying, for bonuses, you're paying for computers, you're paying for travel for everyone. You're paying for, for all of those people, and not all those people are making money all the time.
Right.
Um,
They're not income generators.
they're not income generators.
So
No.
were you evaluating things at a large level, like a higher level, or were you evaluating things at the granular level? Like, did you get your CFO involved to like evaluate what parts of the business were profitable, were doing well, so that you could make those hard decisions? Or was it just like, we got to scale down, let's cut everybody?
Yeah, it was kind of the latter.
Yeah.
Where it was, I knew, my profit and loss. I knew that the store
Mm-hmm.
was not, it wasn't losing money, but it wasn't really making money. It was really kind of a storage unit, a
Right.
very, very pretty, expensive storage unit for
Yes.
accessories that we were going to place in projects. But it was really this, like, gut instinct of, I could see all the money that was coming in, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it, but it was going out so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I also knew that, this pace was not going to be sustainable.
Right.
With having kids that were at the time 11, 7, and a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was not where I wanted to be. I'm not a good manager. And the reason that I got into this business was not to manage or to own a business. It was
Was
to
to create.
design and to
Mm-hmm.
create and to work with clients on their homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd gotten really far away from that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's easy to do because you have
yeah.
this, like you said in the beginning, is you have this instant success.
Yeah.
And then you just start saying yes, saying yes, saying yes. And then you find yourself in a place that you never wanted to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
And making the cuts are hard because then you start to identify yourself with the level that you're at, with
Yes.
the big store, the big
Yeah.
staff, all of the clients,
Yeah.
all of the accolades. And stepping away from that is hard for a lot of reasons.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
I think the ego, like, once you take the ego out of it, though,
mhm.
and there were, we had some friends that also work with, the design trade, and they're asking, like, what's going on? I was like, what's going on is I don't want to do this anymore. I
Right.
was like, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to have 50 or 15 or 20 projects at a time. I
Mhm.
want to have 5 that are projects that are really wonderful that I can spend time with, because we're with clients for 18 months to 3 years, because
Right.
we're doing full construction from the ground. A lot of times they hire us first, and then we help them find an architect and a builder.
Right.
People sometimes call us before they've even found the land, and they
Wow.
say, what should we do? Who should,
Mhm.
we're looking for, for a piece of land,
Right.
but we wanted to call y'all, which is such a compliment.
It is. And so
Um,
knowing that you spend so much time for such a long period of time with a client,
mhm.
does that factor into your decision making for who you take on?
1,000%.
Because you know you've got to deal with this person for
1,000%.
3
Yeah.
years potentially?
It's like you're in bed with them. I mean, really. I mean, we've been with clients who their spouses have passed away during
Mhm.
projects. They've had children. Their children have gotten married. Their kids go off to college. So they have a cancer. We've been with
Mhm.
people in their most, wonderful moments
Right.
and in their hardest moments. And you don't really want to be in with people that you don't genuinely like.
Right.
We kind of have a saying. It's like it's got to have the 3 P's, like profitable, publishable, and pleasurable. And if it's
Nice.
not
Yeah.
able to be those 3 things,
You
it's
say
not the
no
right
to it.
fit. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, if they are so lovely, but maybe their taste isn't exactly, what we would want to do, the pleasurable part is
Mm-hmm.
more important to me
Yeah.
than, it being this like showcase. Of course
Yeah.
we want it to be a showcase, but working with nice people that value your time and value a home is really what makes my job a lot more enjoyable
Right.
than not.
I had this conversation with
Mhm.
Melissa Tyson, who was on the show recently, about, when you get to a certain level and you have the luxury of saying yes or no to
Yeah.
a project, how much weighs into that decision. Like, okay, so I asked her,
Yeah.
if somebody comes to you and wants you to design a ring that is totally not your style,
Yeah.
do you say yes or no? And she
Yeah.
said, well, I used to have to say yes to everything. And
Right.
now I'm like, no, this is not who I am as a brand.
Right.
So do you get to say no now if a project comes across your desk that doesn't look like Lindsey Cheek?
Yes. We
Yeah.
say no more than we say yes.
Yeah.
Probably, we say yes maybe every 15 calls,
Wow.
maybe every 20
Mhm.
maybe. Morgan would be better at
Yeah.
answering that because she does all of our client intake. But it's not necessarily, it's got to be the right timing, because if we've just started 2 new projects, or if it's, I don't start projects at the beginning of summer
Right.
because that's where my kids are out of school. We want to do family things. It's
Mhm.
chaos. So it's got to be the right timing. They have to have the right budget
Mhm.
because, even if their contractor says, this is the budget, this is what your house is going to cost. If they've looked at our projects, I can look at those line items and say, if you're willing to go up on these items, and we're a great fit. But
Mhm.
if this is your hard and fast budget, you've got, we can
We're
help
not
you.
it.
Yeah, we're not it. And maybe you don't need a designer. Maybe we can just point you in the right direction on what showroom to look for.
Right.
I think that we're a great resource for people if they call and we're not the right fit. We're not just going to say no. Well, we
Mhm.
always recommend maybe a designer that would be a better fit.
Mhm.
And also kind of showrooms or places or people that, will be a good resource for them.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
looking back to, seeing kind of how what your evolution has been,
Yeah.
you went up and then
Mhm.
you came down.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like businesses have to go through that phase
Mhm.
so that they can figure out who they are? Or if you could go back to the beginning,
Yeah.
would you start at the same place that you are now, like small, stay niched,
Yeah.
because
Um,
part of me feels like you have to kind of go through
yeah.
and figure out what you don't want to be
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
figure out what you do want to be.
Yeah. I think that having a store and having a big staff it was a big blessing because I
Mm-hmm.
was able to see what works, what doesn't work. We were able to do huge projects at the same time
Mm-hmm.
that I had a lot of good learning,
Mm-hmm.
lessons. Um, it was always a dream of mine to have a store. And that quickly, I was like, this is not retail is really, really
Not
tough,
it. Yeah.
It's not it. And it, I learned so much with everything. I would not trade that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I would always wonder,
Right.
again, I think um, like a lot of businesses, design has a lot of ego in it.
Right.
As far as like, well, they must be doing better. Their team's larger. Look,
Mm-hmm.
they got published in this magazine,
Mm-hmm.
but all of that doesn't equate to profitability, being profitable.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't mean that they're making great money. It doesn't mean that they're enjoying it.
Right.
I think that having lunch with a friend on a Thursday is a real luxury,
Mm-hmm.
or going to Pilates class or going to volunteer at my kid's school.
Mm-hmm.
Those were things that I wasn't really able to do when I had a big staff,
Right.
or so many projects. I would feel so guilty if I came in late, even though I was the boss. They were getting paid whether I came in or not.
Right.
I always felt so guilty, or like I had to justify it. Like I'm leaving at 4 because of, something that my kids
I
had.
remember you talked to me about this
Mhm.
one day when I saw you when we were getting our nails done, and
Yeah.
I happened to see you, and you were talking to me about that specific thing about
Mhm.
feeling guilty
Yeah.
for not being there all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But you get to a place where, the whole point of owning your own business is for you to be able to create the
Right.
life you want.
Right.
And if you can't do that, then what's the point?
What's the
If you feel
point?
chained to it,
Yeah.
you feel like you're in a prison of this thing that you built.
Yeah.
But you can't do that. You've got to be able to get to the place where you say, I want my life to look like this.
Right.
And then engineer it,
Yeah.
to be that.
Yeah. And we were, I'm in a place now kind of financially that I wasn't when I first started.
Mhm.
My paycheck really mattered a lot more.
Right.
Because my husband he started a business about 2 years after we opened Gathered. So we really relied on my paycheck. It didn't pay the mortgage necessarily, but it definitely paid for a lot of things, where
Mhm.
now it is, it's a perk. It helps pay for fun trips, and
Right.
it can, a lot of it goes into retirement and things like that. But I really needed to have, I needed to make a certain amount of money when I first started. And I felt like I couldn't do all of those things. But at 43
Mhm.
now, I'm like, I want to go and have lunch. I want to see my parents. I want to walk the loop with a friend, or go to Pilates or whatever. And I can work my schedule around those things, where
Mhm.
before I didn't. When you have all of these employees, all these clients, and a retail store, you can't do that,
Mhm.
because people want me.
Right.
Like, unlike a recipe that you can kind of create and someone else can replicate it.
Correct. Yes.
Design is not like that, because we
Right.
don't. I really try not, never to use the same fabric or a
Mhm.
light in the same, in two projects. Everything is fresh for that one client. And even when I had a big staff, people still wanted me,
Right.
you know? So it's been a blessing to have that frenzy and then step back and say, like,
Mhm.
that was really fun for a
Yeah.
minute.
Well, putting in the work for all those years
Yeah.
now gives you the luxury of being able to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's an important lesson for people starting new things is, prepare yourself, because you're going to have to go through
Yeah.
those years where you say
Miss a
yes to
lot.
everything, you
Yeah.
miss a
Yeah.
lot, you have to make sacrifices personally
Yeah.
so that one day you can choose how
Yeah.
you want to live.
Yeah.
And it's not working 60, 70, 80 hours, or
Yeah.
working in the middle of the night when you get a phone call, or
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
I have loved watching that. And it has really, honestly, it's kind of shaped how I think about business, is
Mhm.
watching somebody as successful as you are make those decisions.
Yeah.
Um, because you needed balance in your life, and you
Mhm.
needed to be honest about what's profitable, what's not, because
Yeah.
you're right. Like, people look at my businesses and they're like, oh, you must be rolling in the money. I'm like, you have
Mhm.
no idea how much it costs to run
Yeah.
this business with
Yeah.
all of these people and all of this equipment. And
Yeah.
so being able to make those decisions, I don't even know why I bring notes and I never look at them. It helps me kind of like get my brain in
Yeah.
gear, but
But the ego part of it is like, you've done all of these amazing weddings, and all of these big events, and we've done all these amazing houses. But if it's not making money, like, what's the point?
yeah, it's a hobby.
It's a
It's an
hobby. It's
expensive
a
hobby.
really expensive hobby,
Right.
And the ego part of it, once I took my ego out of it
Mhm.
and I was like, I don't care if people think, what they think.
Yeah.
And we're still doing amazing projects.
Mhm.
Um, and projects that I'm, probably the most proud of that I've ever done.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's because it's just me and Morgan doing it, and we have complete control, and we've been able to really curate a clientele that
Mhm.
comes to us for, our luck, but also our process.
Mhm.
And Morgan's very upfront when we first meet them. She, this is our timeline. This is
Mhm.
how much we charge. And this is you're going to meet with, we're going to meet with you, and then this is our next meeting,
Right.
so that they have very clear expectations of what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And she does that when she's mapping those timelines out. It's not just how long it's going to take me, but she's like, well, you drop your kids off at camp,
Right.
or you and Grayson are going to go on vacation, or this is Christmas break, or,
Mhm.
she looks at not just our work calendar, but my personal calendar
That's
as
great.
well. Um, and, and they're, that's the timeline that they're given at the very
Mhm.
beginning before they ever really sign a contract. And then if that's okay with them, then we move forward.
Hey, really quick, if you've ever thought about starting a podcast, you need to hear this. I could have tried to do this on my own, but I'm a business owner and I'm not trying to learn audio, video, editing, or any of that other stuff. Between my businesses, family, and everything else, it just wasn't going to be possible without serious help. The team at Unfilter handles everything: the planning, filming, guests, editing, clips, all of it. If you've been sitting on a podcast idea, don't. Go to unfilter.io and let Rich and his team bring it to life. So at any given time, how many projects do you have going?
They're all in different phases, but I mean, we may have up to 6 at a time. And they're all, for the most part, all full renovation or ground up construction projects.
That's a lot for two people to manage.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, which leads, this is a good segue into something I want to talk about too, because I find this in my own business is cultivating vendor partners who you work with is so important for you to be able to handle that kind of load and do it successfully.
Yeah.
So how do you, I'm sure you have vendor partners that you work with pretty much on every project because you know them, you trust them.
Yeah.
We have wedding planners that, you know, when we have a wedding of theirs come across our desk, we're like, oh, thank God.
Thank God.
We know it. We know what we're getting into.
Yeah.
Or we know who the florist is and the photographer is. And it's always just so much fun, more fun.
Yeah.
Helps our administrative process hugely because we don't have to put in as much work.
Right.
So how do you find and curate that list of people that you work with that you know you want to continue to work with down the road?
I mean, we have worked with the same, really our tile installer, countertop people, we have worked with them from day one. You know, it's like, I don't want to say work husband, but like my little brother almost.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with, it's Sellers Tile. I've worked with them for 10, 11 years. They've done almost every project, they've done every project in town that we've done in the last 10 years. And then for out of town projects that aren't too far, where we've worked, we had a job on Bald Head Island, and they don't do, you know, Sellers doesn't go to Bald Head to do tile installation. And we had a horrible experience. And I called them and I said, I don't know what to do, you know, and they came and fixed it. I mean, that's how good they are. They're that good to me for our projects. And they're just, you know, they're not the least expensive, but they're the best. And I value them so much because they are such a partner. When I meet them with them on site, you know, in front of a client, not in front of a client, because I am not an expert in construction.
Right.
And I think a lot of designers will go in and try and really kind of muscle through if they don't know, you know, what what either the client or the contractor is asking. And I ask 1,000 questions, you know, when we're there, and we'll bring up things that may be a problem, you know, moving forward. And they've been such a good partner. And I think because I don't bring ego into a project, and I am organized and treat all of their guys well, whether it's, you know, the guy that's grouting the tile or, you know, the salesperson. I, you know, treat them all with respect and really value them. We've had projects out of town where the contractor isn't my favorite.
But you're stuck.
And you're stuck. And you really have to have a lot of gumption and confidence and treat them with respect, but also say, like, I'm an advocate and we're on the same team. But we've been really lucky that we've not kissed too many frogs, you know, in our space.
Yeah.
We've had a few bad ones here and there, but we don't use them again.
Right. That is not a long-term partner.
Yeah, that's not a long-term. But again, you know, we're with these guys for 18 months, 3 years sometimes. And eventually they understand that, you know, we're not against them.
Well, the smart people, the smart vendors and business owners will recognize that this has potential to be a long-term relationship.
Right. Yeah, years.
Let's do right by each other so that they will hire me for the next job.
Right.
That is such a huge part of my business, is that I know that my business is dependent on that wedding planner.
Yeah.
Liking to work with us.
Right. To be able to recommend you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they don't want to work with you, you are not getting weddings.
Right. Right.
So it's the same. And every time I've tried to hire a contractor for like a commercial project, and they're awful. They're just awful.
They're awful. Yeah.
But they don't care because they have no
Somebody else
interest.
knocking on the door.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It really is such a detriment to them, though, because it's like you're a business owner that has multiple businesses and spaces. like, why would they not want to work with you?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I would say like our contractors that we work with and our trades, they treat us as well as they would a client because we're really the client
Right.
in this scenario. And that's why our successful partnerships, they're really good to us. As you know, I've moved a
A few
ton.
times.
We've lived here 16 years. We've moved 11 times.
Good gracious.
We've renovated 4, 5 houses.
And all the houses of yours that I've been in have been my favorite. Each
Thank you.
new one is my favorite.
But I've been on the other side of it too, where I've been the client. I've been the one living in the renovation,
Mhm.
and seeing how much it cost, and seeing the heartache and the stress. And these guys have done great for our personal houses as well.
Mhm.
My husband's lived through that as well.
Bless his heart.
My
Yes.
children have,
Uh-huh.
they always are like, when's our next house?
Are y'all going to stay put for a minute?
I know. Or in our
Where
new
where
house?
you are
Oh,
now?
I know. I don't have a bathtub. So
Oh.
I know. I've got to have a house with a bathtub. But
Oh.
no, we'll keep this one.
Yeah.
We promised the kids we wouldn't leave the beach, though, now that we're on the beach.
Yeah. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
Um the other thing I wanted to ask about is client relationship,
Uh-huh.
which of course is similar to your vendor relationship because they're
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
And you're in this luxury space which is a different kind of client interaction than any other. Do you look at your clients as not just for the one project, but do you have clients who come back to you for multiple projects?
Yeah.
So you're looking at that as not just an 18 months to 3 years relationship. It could
Mhm.
potentially be 15, 20 years
Yeah. Yeah.
of
We've done multiple houses for many clients. We've
Mhm.
done, 3 houses for one client. We've done, it's weird. Wilmington people will have a house in town and they'll have a beach house,
Mhm.
which, I never grew up knowing someone that had a
Wait,
beach house.
2 houses basically in the same town,
Oh
like
yeah,
your
like
beach house and your city house?
we have a client that from their house in Wilmington, they live on the water, can see their house on the beach.
What? That is wild.
It's wild, right?
That is
But
wild.
we have a lot of clients, and it is the greatest compliment when they come
Mhm.
back to us. Um, and we have clients where we've done their house and then they say, we're looking at buying another house. We walk through it with us and the realtor before we put
Mhm.
an offer on it.
Mhm.
And whether, it may be, it's, typically a house that needs renovating and we'll say, I think this is going to be about this much. I could be wrong. I'm not a contractor, but, and that helps them make an informed decision before they do that. But it's the best compliment. We've worked with multi-generations. We've worked with parents who have children, and we've done both houses of the parents and the
Love
kids,
that.
which is really fun. We've done the same house. We designed the house, and then the person that bought it, we
Redid it again.
redid it
Oh,
for them.
that's so fun. So how do you approach that? Like, what's your mindset in of course, you're just a lovely person in
Mm,
general, and, like, your personality is so amenable to, relationship building. But, like, how do you approach knowing that you want to keep these people for that many years and multiple projects?
yeah,
What are some ways that you approach client
client
relationships?
relations. Yeah, I mean, again, we're with them for so long. They know at the end. They know my kids' names.
Mhm.
They know, they know a lot about me as well. And I think that we're not like going out to dinner when it's not work related
Right.
necessarily. I try to keep that boundary very tight of,
Mhm.
client designer. But, at the end of projects, we have this relationship we really care about. I care about how they're living. We check in on them, whether it's,
Mm.
like a Christmas gift or just, a text saying like, how are you doing? Or, um, congratulations on your new grandbaby or
Right.
whatever. I mean, it's because we don't have hundreds of clients. We're able to have those touch points
Mhm.
throughout the year. And, I think it's just the relationship. Like once you've worked with us, typically they come back,
Mhm.
um, and they'll recommend, their sister or their cousin or whoever. And I think it's just being like having a genuine interest in our clients.
Yeah.
Because we really like our clients.
Which just goes back to that whole selection process in the
Yes.
beginning.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
important that you can get along, that you enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And it's such a personal business. You are in their homes, which is the most
I mean,
personal space.
yeah.
And there has to be, I imagine it's like, no, you're not going out to like dinner to hang out.
No.
But you do still have to have a personal relationship with them for that connection.
Yeah.
I will go back to a business in a heartbeat if I feel like they care about me as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they remember my name, if they, remember that I have a dog or a kid who plays football. And, you better believe I'm going to be going back because you made me feel a certain way.
Right. Yeah. We're in we know their habits
Mhm.
by the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
We have been marriage counselors.
I bet you have.
a
Through a
lot of
renovation
times.
project, I bet that's most of your job.
Yeah, we've been marriage counselors, therapists. We know, the quirks. One day we might write a book, and we've had people are bizarre too. I mean, people.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, you probably had stories that you could write a book too. But we hold their secrets, too. So I think it's just when you've worked with someone and we tell them, like, we are going to mess up. A contractor is going to mess up. You're going to get frustrated at them. You're going to get frustrated at us. There's going to be a moment in this project where you're like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And we get through those. Every project has them.
You're holding a lot of hands.
You're holding a lot of hands. And it's typically it's the largest investment that they're making. It's the most money that they've ever spent. We are, we're a luxury service, but we're also, I feel like people get their money I feel like we're worth every penny because we save them.
Right.
And at the end of projects, a lot of times they'll call and say, what dish rack should I get? I'm like, you are capable. Like, I want to give you the confidence that you can order a dish rack. You don't need my permission to do that.
That's so funny.
But it's really funny how close we get with our clients. So I think that coming back to us is really like I don't know, it's the biggest compliment, but I think it's, we're safe for them.
Yeah.
It's like working with a wedding planner again, almost, because we've been through kind of the trenches with them.
Right. Wedding planners are funny. They'll tell me about a client that they just booked and they were like, and they have 3 other daughters.
Yeah. They're like, gold mine.
Gold mine. And we're going to get this right because we want the other 3.
Yeah, 100%.
But it is like this, and it's not just luxury services. It's really anything. And I think business owners could, and no matter what space you're in, at what level, and no matter what you're selling, at what price point, the lesson is your customer is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Or you don't have a business.
Yeah.
So treat them well, treat them better than they expect, and they'll come back to you.
Yeah. I mean, I never knew an interior designer when I was growing up. I never knew anyone that had an interior designer. So I never really saw it as a luxury service until I became one, which is an odd thing. But I just knew that I loved design and I loved the whole process of renovating and building and loved the start to finish of it. So to me, I mean, it is a luxury because it's hiring an expert to help you, manage all of these decisions. But I think my favorite part is the relationship part of it, and creating a home where people are going to have Christmases and memories, and they're going to have, their kids might get married there, or their spouses, may get sick, and they're going to have all of these memories. And I'm like, home is so important to me because it's the backdrop of your life,
Right.
Not everyone with money sees that or values that. But all of our clients, I think we have been able to curate this clientele that has the same mindset of, it is important to live in a beautiful home that's comfortable, that we're proud of.
How many conversations do you have with husbands about justifying the expense of your service?
I mean, I think that the husbands, I feel like if they've made the call, they get it. Once they see us as an advocate, and as an expert, because they've got a contractor that will execute the design. But it's a lot of decisions that they have to make in this process. And I think that they see us that way. I mean, it is expensive, but mistakes are more expensive.
For sure. And when you're at that level, spending the kind of money you're spending on an architect and a contractor and all these other things to make this home where you're going to spend so much of your time, the investment in the details of it is so important.
It's so important. I mean, having a tile that you hate is expensive to rip out, or we get plans and we're like, oh my gosh, where's the bed going to go on this? There's not a bed wall, or why are these windows wonky? So we look at things from the very beginning before they've even broken ground and can save them a lot of time and headache and money before they ever start.
Right.
And, we explain that to them before we, start a project. But then I think that that's why they're calling us about a dish rack at the end.
Because they need you.
Because I think that they see us as advocates and as a real partner to them.
Right. So earlier you mentioned that you don't like to manage people, and I get that, it's hard.
Yeah.
But you also said you like the relationship between you and your vendors and working closely. And as someone who doesn't work with them as much as you do, but if I've done enough construction projects to understand that I hate working with contractors and that kind of vendor, what's the difference to you? Because that is it is a management role.
It's definitely, I mean, when we had a big team, we were managing all these contractors and then all these team members and then all these clients. It's so different from me because in the managing contractors we are collaborating to have, an end result. They're making me profitable because they're making these projects run and go. We are coming up with creative, problem solving with them, where managing team members is more putting out fires with them. It's not creative. It's people skills and administration, and they're not income producing always. A lot of times they're not. They're doing the design and the creating, and then I'm going through and having to kind of edit. So it seems like it's the same, but for me, it's so different. Because, a cabinet person and a tile person and a contractor and an electrician, when I'm managing them, they're moving the project forward in a way where staffing, it's really just like people,
I think
solving.
With any business owner, you have to be real honest with what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And if your strength, which is obvious to everybody who sees you working, is that you thrive in that like creative building, the actual making of the thing, right? The house is the thing. That's a piece of art. And you getting like down nitty gritty with the people who are holding the chisels, is different than somebody who's working a spreadsheet for you or like managing a schedule.
1,000%. I don't love office time and doing that. Like we would have Monday morning meetings that would be hours long, and I would dread it.
You just die a little inside.
I would just
time.
die. Or having to do like employee reviews. I mean, I would just be like, do we have to do them?
The worst.
I don't want to do this, but
you don't do an employee review with your plumber every time.
Oh my gosh.
The project is over.
No, not at all.
You get to skip that part.
I get to skip that part. And it's just, I love working with those people. I mean, it's nice too, because I only see them for maybe like 30 minutes a week or an hour a week. So it's exciting because they're teaching me things too.
Well, it's that symbiotic relationship, right? Because you bring them work, they bring you work. You get to create together and know that like it's beneficial for everybody involved. And so I get it. It's a different kind of relationship, a different kind of management.
Definitely.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Let's do it again so I get to see you. Thanks for joining me on Business from Scratch. Follow the show for more honest conversations about building a business that works for you.